This is crazy. What's up, y'all? How y'all doing out there? I'm FRANKRED in the Dungeon program live on YouTube. And this is late, y'all. It's 1:18 in the morning, Pacific Coast time. But that's what we do. When I start thinking about everybody who has been successful in this particular genre, creating content, being entrepreneurial about it, they work their tails off. And that's what I've been about. As a matter of fact, to be real honest with you guys, I've been talking for about 20 minutes right now, and I didn't start the program. So that's how much, that's how excited I was to do this show. I didn't even start the live broadcast. So I apologize for that if you were waiting for the show to start at 1 a.m. It actually did start at 1 a.m. You just couldn't hear it. So maybe you're asleep now. I don't know. It's good to get those reps in though. I just talked quite a bit about the Denver Nuggets sweeping the LA Lakers and how they should feel good about themselves, but nobody really cares about number two. So unless you win the championship, this is going to be looked upon as a really good year. But as you get further and further away from it, it won't mean as much. You know? Going back literally 20 years now, the Sacramento Kings. That was the best team in the NBA for that 1 year. Vlade Divac, Peja Stojakovic, Chris Webber, Doug Christie, Mike Bibby. That starting five took the Lakers to Game 7 in Sac at Arco. And it literally took Shaquille O'Neal, who probably shot high 50s from the free throw line, to clinch the game by making 4 free throws in a row. Big Shaq always said, you know what? I'm not a good free throw shooter, but I do make them in the clutch. And he was right about that. Shaq made a lot of clutch free throws. Pretty amazing because his form, everything that you teach people not to do, to shoot free throws, that's how Shaq shot free throws. And yet, he had the resolve to make free throws in the clutch, all right? This is the In the Dungeon program on YouTube. We're going to ramp it up. We don't have a set schedule in terms of how many shows we're going to be doing, but we will evolve and we'll become more and more consistent about utilizing Twitter and maybe some of the other entities to let you know when we're going to do shows. But I love talking about sports and basketball in particular, but I talk about everything. One of the stories out there that I mentioned earlier, and no one heard, was, there's people are literally using keyboard time to pin stories about LeBron James potentially coming up north to play for the Golden State Warriors. It seems silly to me. But, if you move one time or 2 times, I guess moving a third time is really not that big a deal. At the end of the day, I think he's going to ride it out with the Lakers. I don't think you do a franchise like that. I really don't. Not the Lakers. The Lakers are, literally one of the few best teams in the history of sports, organizations. So, I think you got to take your poison, work with management internally, if that's how you want to, face it, and get better. You got to get some better players. The Lakers are good, but in Game 4 against the Denver Nuggets, when it was nut-cracking time, walnuts, pistachios, the players who had the ball in their hands, with the exception of Austin Reeves, really didn't come through. Really didn't. I was talking about Lonnie Walker IV when he had that great game against the Warriors, and I was just like, yo, he had a moment. He's capable of every NBA player is capable of having a moment. And Lonnie Walker had his moment on that one night against the Golden State Warriors, and it literally changed the series and allowed the Lakers to move on to the Western Conference Finals. But so far, I mean, it is over now, but against the Denver Nuggets, his contributions were okay. Not bad, not horrible, but certainly not what you might have expected coming off what he did. I forgot, was that game 3, game 4 against Golden State? I don't remember. But he played really, really well in the fourth quarter. I think he scored 16 points, I believe. So, you know, Austin Reeves is a player who I think the Lakers definitely want to bring back and utilize for the foreseeable future. But I think you have to be careful. I mean, they raised him, they developed him, they signed him. You don't want to see somebody like that walk out of your door. You want him to be a part of your organization. Especially when you look at the Caruso fiasco. Because, I mean, allegedly, Caruso got a contract from the Chicago Bulls, took it back to the Lakers, and the Lakers were like, yeah, buy a winter coat in Chicago. And I think, literally, after the first game, they realized that they had made a tremendous mistake by allowing Caruso to walk out the door. They don't want that to happen to Austin Reeves. Now, from Austin Reeves' perspective, you might want to consider some loyalty. I'm not going to get in his bag. I don't know what his objectives are. You want to make the most money, or do you want to be in a place where you're going to get paid real well and play with so many great players who are playing a role in building your confidence? And there's a tax plan in LA. There's a tax. I mean, every city is not LA. So I think that's something else to consider. Rui Hachimura, talented guy, more than good player at this point. Think about that. Talented guy, more than he is a good player at this point. I think the Lakers would love to get another look at him. You know, get another look. Again, there'll probably be some money. I don't know if he's restricted or he's totally unrestricted. I don't know. But I don't think the Lakers are willing to extend him 4 years, even 3 years at this point, because he hasn't been real consistent throughout his career. He's flashed, you know, he flashed a lot at Gonzaga. Talented guy. But that level of consistency that you want to see, he has not exhibited thus far. And in game 4 against Denver, he was okay. Wasn't bad, but he was just okay. All things considered, I think Kyrie Irving, if they can get the money right, would give the Lakers a different look and certainly upgrade their talent. You know, the likelihood of Kyrie playing 70 games in an NBA season is just not a good bet. He's probably likely to play around 60. And if he's playing 60 and you can keep a Dennis Schroeder for a decent price, then you know, you got a pretty good point guard combination to get you through the season onto the playoffs. So I don't know what Kyrie's going to do, but I would think that putting a lineup out there that featured Anthony Davis, even LeBron at this stage of his career, and Kyrie is formidable. Maybe not the heir apparent to win a championship, but certainly a team that can compete. I feel sorry for LeBron, man. That dude played 48 minutes in game 4. 30 points in the first half. And I think in game 3, LeBron walked off because he was upset that he came out of the game in game 3. At the 6-minute mark, the score is tied 93 all. After LeBron had just hit a couple of threes. They were right there. That game's in the balance. When LeBron James came back into the game at 7:18, the score was 99-94. 5-point deficit with 6 minutes to go. With Jamal Murray and the Joker, you ain't coming back. That means you got to stop Denver 2-3 possessions in a row. The Lakers defensively just not good enough to do that. So the fact that Coach Ham took LeBron out at that particular time, I'm sure pissed him off. And I had always said, call timeouts. You want to rest your players? Call timeout. Don't sub them out of the game. I mean, the Golden State Warriors dealt with that. You know, these top-notch players matter. All right? Now, the Miami Heat, guts and guile, talent, they bring it all to the table. And more times than not, they overwhelm the opposition in the playoffs. They just play harder, they play smarter, they play tougher. But the Celtics' talent prevailed in Game 4. And you was like, whoa. Even Jimmy Butler, as great as Jimmy Butler is, it doesn't look as easy for him as it does for like a Jason Tatum when he's on one. And he was on one in the second half of Game 4. So Game 5 is going to be interesting on Thursday night in Boston. Fortunately for me, I can just sit back and just watch great basketball and hope that everybody plays well. And then it comes down to who wants it the most in the end. But if you're the Boston Celtics, you got nothing to lose. I mean, you're not going to get swept. You're playing in front of your home crowd. And ironically, they don't have a great record in front of their home crowd in the playoffs. They have in past years, but not this year. They're not playing real great basketball in front of their home crowd. So maybe that's going to change. Maybe Miami goes up north to Boston and ends this thing because they don't want the Celtics to have more momentum. It's going to be interesting. I think almost regardless, though, the Mazzulla hire, it's been weird at times. When Brad Stevens hired him, I said from the onset, this dude's been set up to fail. And I tweeted that. And by January, I apologized publicly. And I took it back. And the reason why I did that is because from a strategic and a professional standpoint, Joe Mazzulla knows what to do. He is prepared. His dad was a legendary basketball coach up in that area. He knows basketball. But managing personalities is something that all coaches have to grow into. And when you are young and you are coaching your contemporaries in a lot of respects, they will challenge you. Your players will challenge you and they will tune you out. And all of a sudden you find yourself into these battles that maybe a veteran coach wouldn't have to deal with. So I think that kind of, got in the way some. At the same time, Mazzulla has made some mistakes managing his timeouts. And his players are smart basketball players. And they think like coaches. So, they've had some challenges getting on the right page all the time. But the one thing that I will say about Mazzulla, and I'll say about those Boston Celtics players, and I mentioned this in a couple of tweets, superstar players, and Boston has one superstar player to me, not Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown is an all-star and a very good player, but I don't think he's a superstar, not yet. And maybe he might, and Jaylen might be like, what do I have to do? Thank God I'm not depending on FRANKRED to feel like I'm a superstar. But when I watch his game, there can be periods in which he is not really active. When that happens to Jason Tatum, he's either off like he has been the last couple of games, or he's not touching the ball. It's just a different dynamic assessing those two guys, even though they're both really, really good players. But a superstar player, in my view, does not allow their coach to lose. You fight to the end. Does anybody believe that the 76ers fought to the end when they went down to Boston? I don't think so. That was over. You didn't get that from Boston today. Boston could have laid down. Anybody can lay down. I mean, watch Game 3. You could take the score off the television screen, didn't know what the score was, and look at Miami and look at Boston and see that one team was playing extremely hard and the other team was not. So it was good to see Boston kind of get themselves together. And it wasn't easy because the first half they were down. But in the third quarter and beyond, they put it together and they went out and got a victory. Thursday's game against the Miami Heat, who lead that series, Eastern Conference Finals, 3-1. Game 5 is going to be interesting in Boston. Hopefully we'll have a good game. So, that's my take on what's going on in the NBA. Quietly, on a sneaky tip, you got these NFL training camps happening now, these mini camps. And I grew up in New York as a kid. I was a Washington Redskin fan because everybody in my neighborhood loved the Cowboys. And then, as I got older, kind of found the Giants a little bit and was fortunate enough to go to Fordham University where Mr. Mara, the owner of the Giants, went. And I became a big-time Giant fan. Became a big-time Bill Parcells fan. So, I've been a Washington Commanders fan now. Excuse me. And a New York Giants fan. But I'm a football fan. I love watching football. Even out on the West Coast, I like watching the 49ers. I like to see them do well. Ronnie Lott was my favorite player growing up, one of my favorite players. So was Joe Montana. Joe Montana, to me, will always be my best quarterback of all time. I don't care what the stats say, I watched it with my eyes. I trust my eyes more than I trust anything. And when the game was on the line, Joe Montana was good as anybody who's ever played this game and possibly the best of all time. So that's my story. I'm going to stick to it. Now, Bryce Young has me excited to watch a player start his career like nobody I've seen. I can't even remember being so excited to see a player start their career the way that I am anticipating Bryce Young. And Stephen Curry's a big-time Carolina Panthers fan also, so I'm happy for him as well. But watching Bryce Young at Alabama, particularly his junior year, when he had all of the thoroughbreds, was just an awesome experience on Saturday afternoons. Because this dude was a two-legged computer slinging it out there. And I anticipate him, if it's not week 1, certainly being the Carolina Panthers starter within the first 3 weeks. I think he's that good. All the articles I'm reading, all the information on the internet says that he's just one of those guys who gets it. Andy Dalton has spoken to that. It was his primary backup, quasi-starter at this point. Frank Wright is a quarterback guru, and he's really impressed with Bryce. So I want to see Bryce do his thing, right? Now, I want to talk about the NBA draft coming up. Now, I'm not going to throw a whole bunch of names at you that maybe you haven't seen a whole lot or you don't know a whole lot about. I'm going to give you a couple of names. I'm going to start with the Sacramento Kings. I say, well, what are the Sacramento Kings' priorities? A serviceable young center, right? Maybe out of the draft. I actually think the Golden State Warriors and the Sacramento Kings have similar priorities. There's a guy by the name of Charles Bediako. Sophomore center out of Alabama. He's 7 foot. I watched him a couple of times. Watched him in the tournament. And I need to watch more. But he has pretty good agility, a pretty aggressive rebounder, and he averages almost 2 blocks a game. So when you look at the Sacramento Kings, that is an area of need. Domantas Sabonis is an excellent player, all-star, but he's not a shot blocker. And I think that he's going to have to show some versatility if the Kings are going to ascend and, play multiple positions. Not only play the 5, but play the 4. And, the Kings could even go out and sign a veteran center. But I would love to see them take a hard look at Bediako out of Alabama. They actually are targeting by some of these mock draft websites, Bediako's teammate, Clowney, who's 6'10", and he's probably maybe a little more skilled. He probably leads a little more offense, but Bediako, I know, is a defender and a rebounder, and he's 7 foot, got real long arms. That's somebody I think the Kings might want to take a look at. The same can be said for the Golden State Warriors. Although the Warriors love offense so much, if they know of an offensive player that they like, I could see them drafting another offensive player. But when I look at them, last year on draft day, I was like, yo, draft Jalen Williams out of Arkansas. Excellent player, 6'10", shoot the 3, pass. One of the top charge takers in the NBA. Patrick Baldwin might be a good player down the road, but he basically was in the G League all year or sitting on the Warriors bench. They got nothing from him. If Jalen Williams had been within the Warriors organization, he probably would have started some games this year. That's how good he is. So it'll be interesting to see what direction they go in utilizing the 19th pick, which is what they have in this year's draft. The Kings got a second-round pick, and I've seen the name Jaime Jaquez also as a second-round pick potentially for the Kings. I like him also. He's not great at anything, but he's tough. He's real tough. He's going to be very coachable. And with practice, his release is not the quickest, but he's a good shooter. I think Jaime Jaquez could be a real nice complementary player in the right NBA organization. So keep your eye on those two players. Once again, my name is FRANKRED. This is In the Dungeon program on YouTube. Feel free to subscribe to the show and be on the lookout for future shows because we're going to start to definitely ramp them up. All right. Now it's way past 1 o'clock in the morning. I've been on for about an hour. You've heard about 20 some odd minutes. So I'm going to break down and look forward to you checking me out again. Hit me up on Twitter at BigFrankRed. If you are not familiar with me or if you don't follow me, if you like what you hear, you're interested in following me, do that. And a lot of times I follow back as well. For those who are watching and listening right now, I want to thank you for taking the time. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to get out of here. Success and getting paid is a manifestation of the whole process. If you as an individual don't do things to help other people make their lives better, as far as I'm concerned, you haven't done nothing. Good night, or hi, if you check this program at another time, all right? Peace.